What's up, guys? It's me, Tiff, and I'm in New York City watching Sam Bankman-Fried's criminal trial in person. As I've stated before, the trial will not be televised. There are no phones, electronics, or cameras allowed in the courtroom, so I've been going in person every single day, and I'll be sharing updates here on YouTube, on Twitter, on Substack, etc. So if you want to follow along, feel free to. Anyway, today was the second day of Caroline Ellison's testimony. For those of you who don't know, Caroline Ellison was the former CEO of Alameda Research, as well as the on-again, off-again girlfriend of Sam Bankman-Fried. I did make a summary video of her testimony yesterday, and I posted it on YouTube. I tried to post it on Twitter too, but apparently it exceeded the maximum capacity or something, so I wasn't able to post it. So if you want to watch it, it is on YouTube. Yesterday, Caroline was a lot more composed. I even commented that she sounded upbeat and even giggled a bit. But today, we actually saw Caroline Ellison cry on the witness stand. So I'm just going to summarize today's testimony. Alameda Research had taken out billions of dollars of loans from multiple third-party lenders, including Genesis. Well, in the summer of 2022, the crypto market saw a massive downturn, and a lot of these third-party lenders, such as Genesis, were recalling their loans. On June 13th, 2022, Genesis recalled $400 million of their loans to Alameda. Caroline said that she became stressed about this because Alameda had lost a lot of money in the crypto downturn and did not have the money to repay loans, so they would have to draw on their line of credit on FTX, or in other words, would have to use FTX customer deposits in order to repay these loans. But apparently, Sam Bankman-Fried directed her to repay the loans even though they didn't have the money on hand and he knew that they would have to draw on FTX customer funds. Caroline then directed Alameda's settlement team to use that line of credit to repay the loans. She knew that if a large number of FTX depositors wanted to withdraw, they would not have the funds to cover that. When Caroline prepared Alameda balance sheets, she labeled the money that they had borrowed from FTX as FTX borrow so that she didn't have to explicitly write FTX customer funds. She claims that she did this because Sam told her to be careful about what she put in writing for legal purposes. And apparently, throughout all of this, Sam Bankman-Fried directed employees of FTX and Alameda to be careful about what they put into writing, as writing was the primary way that companies got into legal trouble. He apparently told employees to never put anything into writing that you're not comfortable with appearing in the New York Times. Not gonna lie, we did spend the majority of today just looking at various spreadsheets and balance sheets, and it was pretty boring, but the main takeaway was that Caroline Ellison was allegedly directed by Sam Bankman-Fried to alter Alameda balance sheets to hide the fact that they were borrowing billions of dollars from FTX customers and to make Alameda look much less risky. Caroline said she felt these balance sheets were dishonest and knew they were wrong. She said that Sam was able to justify this behavior because he's a utilitarian, and to him the only thing or rule that mattered is maximizing utility, or the greatest good for the greatest number. She said that things like lying and stealing didn't factor into his calculation, and said that years ago she never would have imagined sending false balance sheets to anyone, but basically that working at Alameda over the years made Caroline more and more open to lying and stealing. We then looked at a tweet from Sam Bankman-Fried on June 27th, 2022, after Alameda had used billions of dollars of FTX customer funds to repay loans to third-party lenders. Sam Bankman-Fried stated, "Backstopping customer assets should always be primary. Everything else is secondary," which is an audacious thing to post when at the time FTX did not have enough funds to pay back customers. Later, by the fall of 2022, Alameda's liability to FTX had grown to $14 to $15 billion in October. Sam, apparently aware of the precarious situation that Alameda was in at the time, wanted to sell a few $billion of Bitcoin if Bitcoin's price rose to above $20,000 in order to decrease risk. He also hoped to raise money by selling FTX equity to a Saudi prince called Mohammed bin Salman. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, I tried. Apparently, unless they were able to sell FTX equity, there would be no way for Alameda to repay loans. Okay, and then we moved into a spicy little bit about Alameda Research apparently bribing Chinese government officials to regain access to $1 billion. Apparently, $1 billion worth of Alameda's assets was frozen on 2 Chinese exchanges because the government was looking into some sort of money laundering scandal. Sam Bankman-Fried was concerned about this, obviously, and held meetings, hired lawyers, and for a full year they tried to, but were unsuccessful in unfreezing those funds. In one of their attempts to unfreeze these Alameda accounts in China, apparently they used Thai prostitutes to make OKX accounts to make money against trades made by Alameda accounts in hopes that the money that they would move from Alameda accounts to the prostitutes' accounts could then be accessed. This was just an absurd little bit, and I don't know the full story here, but Caroline Ellison testified to this, and some people have told me that this was stricken from the record. but I was there in person to watch her testify to this. Sorry to cut the video off midway, but I wanted to give a quick shout out to my sponsor, Aura. Aura is basically an identity theft and data security company that protects you from scammers and hackers by scanning the web and the dark web for your sensitive information like your passwords, home address, phone number, social security number, etc., and alerts you immediately if it finds anything and automatically requests removal for you. Aura's actually found a ton of my personal information like my phone number and my home address leaked out there on the internet, and they've successfully removed a lot of that for me, so I genuinely love using Aura. I actually pay for a subscription to the service, so if you want to check out a 2-week free trial, you can go to aura.com/Tiffany, or you can use this handy little QR code right here. But personally, I think it's worth even just trying out the free trial just to check and see if any of your personal information has been leaked out there on the internet or on the dark web so that you can try to get that removed. If you don't like Aura, you can obviously cancel at any time, but like I said, I actually pay for a subscription and I've been using them for almost a year now. Anyway, back to the fall of 2022. Apparently, Sam Bankman-Fried was looking to get his hands on more money for FTX because obviously at the time, if all FTX customers were to have withdrawn, they wouldn't have the funds to repay those customers. And do you remember when Sam Bankman-Fried was going around being the white knight of the crypto industry, trying to bail out BlockFi and Voyager, etc.? Well, according to Caroline Ellison, Sam Bankman-Fried took interest in getting his hands on BlockFi's assets so that he could move them to FTX. Additionally, in the fall of 2022, apparently Caroline and Sam had a conversation about hedging. They were talking about how Alameda ended up in this risky position where they were borrowing billions of dollars of FTX customer deposits, and apparently Caroline Ellison started crying and had trouble continuing the conversation because Sam Bankman-Fried was telling her that it was her fault that Alameda got into this situation because she didn't hedge more. In fact, during Sam Bankman-Fried's house arrest, he sent me a multitude of documents that he had written, and one of the documents is all about Alameda's failure to hedge, in which he subtly blames Caroline Ellison for the collapse of FTX and Alameda because he says that Alameda should have hedged more and that he had asked Caroline Ellison to hedge, but ultimately Alameda didn't hedge enough, and that's why Alameda collapsed, leading to FTX's collapse. And Caroline Ellison, in her testimony, admits that hedging could have helped, but the fundamental reason they got into that situation was because of Sam's decisions to borrow so much from FTX customers and make very illiquid investments with them. We later moved on to the collapse of FTX and Alameda in November 2022. I was in the courtroom, and this is where I actually saw Caroline Ellison cry on the witness stand. We were discussing a Signal conversation between SBF and Caroline Ellison, in which Caroline Ellison stated that this is the best mood I've been in over a year. I just think I had an increasing dread of this day. She clarified that when everything imploded, she felt a sense of relief that she didn't have to lie anymore, even though she obviously felt incredibly bad for all the people they harmed. And this is the point at which Caroline Ellison started crying. I'm not gonna lie, watching someone cry in front of me, I honestly felt kind of bad about it, but I'll also say that if I'm being totally honest, I don't think Caroline is innocent at all here. Throughout her testimony, Caroline has obviously stated that all of her crimes were under the direction of Sam Bankman-Fried, and obviously Sam Bankman-Fried was pretty much her boss, but Caroline ultimately is the one who made these misleading balance sheets and sent them to investors. She's also the one who directed Alameda's settlement team to essentially dip into the customer funds, and obviously she was getting Sam Bankman-Fried's go-ahead throughout all of this, but I don't know, honestly, she seems just as guilty to me. In an excerpt from one of my in-person conversations with Sam Bankman-Fried, he told me that Caroline feels incredibly guilty about what happened and stressed, and also that she never actually wanted to be CEO of Alameda. He told me that her life became very complicated and unpleasant and stressful, and she was asked to do a lot more than she ever signed up for. And then he says, and she fucked it up, and she knew that. He then told me that after the shit show started, the word she used to describe how she was feeling was relieved. That raised alarm bells in my head, and I asked, why was that? Did she feel she was having to conceal a lot? He responded, I think it took a lot of pressure off her in a lot of ways. I don't know if it was so much concealing. I think it was like worrying, and it was like stressful as shit. And all of a sudden there was no risk anymore. Like the risk had happened. And so there's sort of no more risk. And I think coming to terms with the maximally bad outcome from her perspective made everything simpler because it meant nothing worse could happen. And for the record, she's already pled guilty to all 7 criminal charges, and she's now cooperating with the government against Sam Bankman-Fried, obviously with the hope of potentially getting a lighter sentence. I'm sorry if today's summary is a little disorganized. I'm basically just reading highlights from my notes, and sometimes during the testimony we'd hop into one little random anecdote and then go back to the fall of 2022, and it kind of was a bit all over the place. And also today was frankly pretty fucking boring. We looked at so many spreadsheets all day, and all of them just served the purpose of showing that Caroline Ellison was creating these misleading documents, and she argues that she did this under the direction of Sam Bankman-Fried. I'm also incredibly sleep deprived. I woke up at 4 a.m. this morning, so I got to court at around 5:30, but I'm planning on going to court every day throughout trial, and I'll continue to post these updates for those of you who can't make it in person since, as I've stated, it will not be televised and no electronics are allowed into the courtrooms. So if you'd like to follow along, you can follow me on YouTube at Tiffany Fong, on Twitter at Tiffany Fong with 1 underscore, on Substack at tiffanyfong.substack.com, and my Instagram is just Tiffany Fong. I've also been sharing some excerpts for my paid Twitter and Substack subscribers of my in-person conversations with Sam Bankman-Fried while he was on house arrest, as well as some snippets from the multitude of documents that he sent me while he was on house arrest. So if you're interested in seeing any of that, you can feel free to subscribe to me on those platforms, but if not, I'll continue to post these summaries for all of you who can't make it to court in person. I love you all so very much, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye!